The 4 things I don't like about the 1300GS. There we go. We've named the video. So, since I started this channel, I've learned way more about bikes than I thought I already knew. And I thought I knew a fair bit, if I do say so myself. But particularly about what I like and what I don't like about a bike. Now, for all the reviews I've done, I can say there's actually very, very few bad bikes out there. It's a matter of taste, ultimately. Many models are you're only picking a colour, really, particularly between the Japanese manufacturers. But mostly, everybody makes a relatively competent bike. But it has changed my mind how I feel about my bikes. Now, as you know, I have my Ducati Monster and my 1300GS, which is 2 months old. Now, over the last month, I have really grown to appreciate how good that monster is, which I didn't at the beginning before I'd ridden all these other bikes. Because, truth be known, I'm not going to buy Yamaha and I'm not going to buy Suzuki. They're not the sort of brand I would buy because perhaps I'm a pretentious fuck and that's the way it is. But the Ducati's flaws are the reason I love it. The drama of the exhaust, the pops and the bangs, the way the starter motor sounds like it might not work, but it always seems to. It's a bike I really love. A bike I love that I've said this many times before, a bike I probably won't get rid of until something else catches my eye. But the most interesting thing is the 1300GS. I keep turning around to look at it because it is just there. Now that bike, there is a handful of things I really don't like. I know normally people say 5 things I don't like about X. This video will be called a number of things I don't like, but I don't know what that number is just yet until I rattle through them. Now, firstly, I want to start by saying it is a better bike than the 1250 in every possible way, as an overall package. But my feeling is about it, it's better in every possible way, in a way that it didn't need to be better. Yes, it's more powerful. It's phenomenally powerful. It's a lot of fun. The chassis is incredibly stiff. The suspension is great. The electronics are great. All fantastic. But I don't think it needed to be that good. Now, am I regretting getting rid of my 1250? No, because it was time to get rid of it. It'd done a load of miles and I didn't want to kill the value too much. I'd already killed it enough. Now, you might be happy to ride your bike into the ground and that's awesome for you, but it wasn't for me. But the things I don't like about this bike. First of all, I would say I think the gearbox is worse. I think it's incredibly agricultural unless you hit it at the sweet spot. The 1250 gearbox felt a bit more forgiving. It wasn't so clunky. A couple of times I've been at lights and I thought I've gone into first and I've gone to rev and it's still in neutral, but it's just bang, a big old clunk. First gear is, when you do get into first, it's clunky. It just feels, like I said to Fred at Boxer Works today, I said, if someone told me that gearbox had no oil in it, I'd go, oh, that makes sense. It's a bag of shit. Now, I only really thought this sort of as a final opinion when I took the RS out last week for a review. The gearbox just felt so much smoother. Maybe my bike, maybe I've got a Friday lunchtime gearbox and that RS was built on a Monday. But I do not like that gearbox. In a similar vein, I don't like the sound of the engine. The engine, again, just feels metallic-y in a way that the 1250 didn't. Not that the 1250 was particularly smooth by any stretch of the imagination, but again, it just feels metallic-y. That's 2 things. Other thing I don't like is the 1250 you sat in it, whereas the 1300 you sit on it. Now that doesn't sound like a big difference, but if you know what I mean, you'll know what I mean. And I prefer to be sat in a bike and like I'm a part of it. I feel very perched on it. So there's 3 things I don't like. I think the centre stand thing with it automatically raises. I find the weight of this bike to put on the centre stand more cumbersome than the 1250. Maybe that's me and bad technique. There's 4 things I don't like. And I would say that's about it. The 4 things I don't like about the 1300GS. There we go. We've named the video. I love having a heated seat. It's the first time I've had that. That's perfect. I love having more than 2 settings on the heated grips. That's a very good thing. The Alexa screen's fantastic. The flickability. Its refinement as a riding machine is fantastic. But I miss the agriculturalness of the 1250. It has refinement in a way that I feel that I'm just, as time goes on, I'm not going to use it in the way that I did the 1250. Which makes me a bit sad. Not that I took the 1250 off-road, but it felt like a tractor and it was all rain and mud and I didn't really care. I mean, I washed it every day if it got dirty and I looked after it. But that feels more, not precious per se, but fragile. I mean, it's not, but it feels it. And the last thing I'm going to say about this bike, if I end up keeping it, I won't be sad because it's a phenomenal bike and it's made me love my Monster more. Which, by the way, I'll say the Monster's gearbox is stunning, particularly the auto blipper on the quick shift, on the way down. But I was in Dick Lovett Motorrad today, and I hopefully will hear from tomorrow that I am potentially trading my way out of that GS after 2,180 miles. Because it's, and I've said this for a long time, ever since I first test rode the first 1300 GS, it's a great bike, but it isn't a GS. I don't know what it is, but it isn't a GS. And again, that's not to say it's not amazing, because it is amazing. But if I wanted refinement, I'd get something else. Anyway, if you could hit subscribe, that'd be awesome. Cheers.